Travis Jones gets an extension from the Baltimore Ravens, but not at a number you might expect. Let's get into it here on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome in to the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the number one sports podcast network. Appreciate everybody for being here on this little Thursday afternoon edition stream, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Thanks so much to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage here on Locked On Ravens. And on today's show, Travis Jones signs an extension, another deal by Derrick DeCosta. We'll break down what it means. We'll break down if there are any other extensions that are going to come down the pipeline now. We'll also break down how the Ravens can move forward, and we'll talk a little bit about what they need to do heading into Sunday against the Cincinnati Bengals. So again, appreciate everybody. Want to tell everyone that today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you and presented by PrizePicks. And with PrizePicks, download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I love this deal. I'm just straight up. First thoughts, I love this deal. 3 years, $40.5 million for Travis Jones. And so, the Ravens always love doing stuff when I'm doing stuff. So, of course, I look at my phone and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this happened. And, we're popping on here doing a live. But then I look at the number and I'm like, wait a second. This is really low for what I expected Travis Jones to get. And obviously there's context behind this, and we'll dive into this a lot more on tomorrow's show, and I'm sure more stuff will come out about it, and we'll kind of revisit this conversation. But essentially what Jez Rebick of The Athletic is reporting, and other context that's been coming out, is that he's playing on the fourth year of his rookie contract right now. But Rashad Bateman, if you remember that situation back last season when there was something in the fifth year option, like he missed practice and, ended up not being able to get his fifth year option, essentially. It, I guess, was the same thing with Travis Jones, where he didn't get an accrued season as a rookie because of an issue with the CBA. So like Rashad Bateman last season, Travis Jones was on track to only be a restricted free agent this offseason. So that's really interesting. And the player doesn't have leverage, or at least a lot of it, in those situations, which is why for Bateman's deal in a rising receiver market, we saw him get that money, which, was still good money. And again, like for Travis Jones, $40.5 million, 25 guaranteed, that's still good money, but it's, I think, a lot less than people were expecting, and probably he was expecting. And, Jones hasn't had necessarily a huge sack season, I guess, or a huge stat season this year. Actually, how many tackles does he have this year? Now that I'm on here, Travis Jones has, where is he at? 34 tackles and 1.5 sacks this year. And again, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. He has 5 quarterback hits on the year, 6 tackles for loss. But I think Travis is a better player than the box score indicates. I think Travis is a better player than that, but I would have still expected him to get more money than this, because in a rising defensive line market, which we know is continuing to get big money deal after big money deal, I think a team, how much would it have been more for, I don't know, random team like the Lions, I don't know, where to go and sign a guy like Travis Jones? Maybe it would have been 4 years, 58, 60, $65 million. I'm not sure. But I think this, honestly, for the situation at least, it's great value for the Ravens. I love this deal for the Ravens. I wasn't as excited about Mark Andrews in that deal, but when it came out how it was structured, I'm like, okay, it's essentially a 1 year, at the very maximum 2-year deal. I'm curious to see how this deal is structured, if it actually gives Travis Jones leeway, because Jones right now, this was supposed to be his first big and it is, again, $40.5 million. Man, shoot, give me $40.5 million. I'll go out there and play. But Jones right now is 26 years old. He just turned 26 less than a couple months ago. And this allows him to essentially hit the market before his age 30 season. And hopefully by that point for Travis, he will have established a little bit more in terms of consistency. And especially, I think a lot of teams, it's not everything, but teams do look at the sack numbers. And, Jones, he hasn't gone above 1.5 sacks in any season of his career, and some of that has been limited opportunity, others, it just like there have been situations throughout his career where it just hasn't worked out that way. So his sack numbers aren't there. He gets pressure. And part of that is people know how good he is at, generating that pressure one-on-one. So they're going to send double teams. And that obviously has resulted, I think, in him not being able to get to the quarterback as much. I'm actually curious to see how much he is double teamed, but Jones over the course of his career only has 5 sacks in 4 seasons. So I think the Ravens probably looked at that and looked at some other stuff and looked at the situation. And I think we're able to come to this agreement, which again, I really, really like for Baltimore. So other context within the situation is the NFLPA actually filed a grievance against the NFL on Travis Jones's behalf, and that hearing was scheduled for today. And Jones' agent and the Ravens met before that hearing and hammered out an extension. So it could have gone either way where, if Jones had lost that hearing, the Ravens get even more leverage. And then is he even getting $40.5 million or 25 guaranteed? If Jones won that, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, I have my leverage back now. So then he demands more money. So seemed like both parties wanted to stay with each other. Jones wanted to stay in Baltimore. The Ravens wanted to continue with Travis Jones. And I'm really happy because there was a lot of concern on my end, especially after the Andrews deal. And we'll talk about this a little more in the second part of the show. But there was definitely concern on my end about how many of these guys the Ravens were actually going to be able to sign. And now with this deal happening and with the money it is at, and especially like even if you go back to Bateman last season, I know we're kind of bleeding into a little bit what the second part of the show is going to be about, but still an important conversation. Like it gives the Ravens so much more leeway to get another guy or two under contract that wouldn't have done, like they wouldn't have had that opportunity had they had to sign Bateman to a bigger deal than they did, or Jones to a bigger deal than they did. So the grievance situation, again, I want to like deep dive into this more on tomorrow's show, but just the bare bones of it now, because I'm sure more stuff will come out, is that if Jones won the grievance, according to Jeff, he would have been an unrestricted free agent in March. So obviously he was headed for restricted free agency, which, Ravens can match, or it usually lessens the value, but unrestricted free agent would have been huge. And the restricted free agency, you're able to get that second round, $6 million tender. That's what Jeff said he was probably likely headed for. And yeah, he signed through 2028 now. So the Ravens getting their younger pieces, and I guess for Mark Andrews, some of their veteran pieces under contract. And I had said this after the Andrews extension, right? I said, all right, let's make this the first signing, right? Andrews, first signing of the season. Hopefully there can be one more or two more. I had thought it was going to be Lamar Jackson. That obviously still is something you have to get done to be able to unlock your full potential as a team to spend this offseason. Does Travis Jones mean that, all of a sudden the Ravens with that number are going to be able to re-sign everybody back? Of course not. Every roster looks different. There's probably going to be a loss or two, whether it's likely, whether it's Linderbaum, and we'll dive into that in the second part of the show a little bit more. But at least for what this move is on the surface, I really like it. I really, really like it. And I see points saying they need to put Travis on that O-line with the new shiny deal. Hey, maybe he can't be a two-way player. Probably you can head out there, put him out there. He's better than the guards. So, yeah, we're going to see. Brian, I'm locked on. Appreciate you. And Joe saying, can we just get the Lamar extension? That's what I'm hoping is next, Joe. I'm hoping when the Lamar extension is next, it'll free up that could free up 20, 30, $40 million in cap space, depending on how that deal is structured. It's obviously, you're going to push that money down the line a little bit. But if the Ravens do that right in terms of pushing the money down the line, they will have a pretty good amount of spending power for themselves in this 2026 offseason. So, and I see, maybe talking about it. Yeah, Travis Jones got the extension. Brandon saying that was a desperate move because they would have only had one DT on the roster. They're going to have to fill a lot of holes on that line. Yeah, I mean, I think that Travis Jones was a necessity for them. And, I had kind of come to the realization that, if they could have only signed one more guy of the three, Jones, Likely, and Linderbaum, I would have probably preferred Jones. But, the Ravens on that O-line, like, how many guys do you want to replace? Like, I think you're probably going to go into the year replacing both guards. If you lose Linderbaum, that's the center you're going to have to replace. I think as long as Stanley doesn't retire, tackle spots. I mean, I think Rosengarten, despite him regressing, is going to start there. So you're replacing, if Linderbaum leaves, I think anywhere from 3 to 4 starters on that O-line. But, I think they're going to heavily prioritize the O-line in the offseason and the draft. I mean, I have to believe they will. So I do think this Travis Jones deal does open up more possibilities for this Ravens team when it comes to what they can do this offseason, not just re-signing their own guys. I actually think this opens up plenty of opportunities there, but also when it comes to figuring out what they want to do in free agency. So coming up in the second part of the show, we're going to talk about that because I think it's really important to discuss what actually is going to happen with this team this offseason. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming your way here on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by PrizePicks, and this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Now, PrizePicks is adding an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats: fantasy score, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Moving along here on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you, instantly reacting to the Ravens signing Travis Jones to a 3-year, $40.5 million extension. Appreciate everybody again for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. And of course, with that 5-day-a-week Ravens content that we have here, we have the regular show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We have bonus episodes on the weekend when there are headlines. We have instant reactions like this and after every Ravens game. We have watch-alongs during the games, the squad show with myself, Sam Njoku, and former Ravens receiver CarGurus. There is so much Ravens content we have. Plus, the Everydayer Club just launched, which is extra add-on content if you want to support the show in a different way. We have live text chains with me, Q&As weekly. We're going to expand that out, so that link's in the description down below if you are interested. But free and available wherever you get your podcasts for the show. All right. This is something that I'm excited about because, in my opinion, the Ravens with their extensions have opened themselves up to, I think, really go after another one of their free agents that were like the big time guys, which I didn't think was a possibility after that Andrews extension, knowing what I thought I knew about what that Travis Jones extension was going to be. Not that I had like any inside information. I'm not saying that, but just like with the way, and actually we'll look it up right now. So for interior defensive lineman contracts in the NFL, doing a little live research here on Locked On Ravens. So obviously Travis Jones was never getting Chris Jones money. That's $31 a year, but I was expecting him, because again, $40.5 million per season is $13.5 million, which again is not a small number, but for the way the interior defensive line market was trending, it kind of is, all things considered. Now, again, for a guy with 5 career sacks and whatnot, but again, I do think Jones and his impact goes beyond the box score. So that 13 mil average right around gives him about DJ Jones money, Grover Stewart money, which Grover Stewart's one of my favorite interior linemen in the entire NFL. It's right under what guys like Cam Hayward are making, Javon Kinlaw. He's making a little more per season than guys like BJ Hill, who's in Cincinnati, DJ Reader. So more those like veteran guys, like Grady Jarrett's right up there. So again, like I think this is a really good value deal because I was expecting him more to be in like, and it wasn't like a huge bump, but anywhere in the like 15 to $18 million range, especially if he was able to have a strong end to his season. So that to me still really helps. And what I actually have done, if you've been listening to me on the show, you've been watching, especially when the Ravens, I actually forgot to do it for Mark Andrews. And I'm like, no, I forgot to do it. But what I've been doing is a Ravens extension tracker. So before the season, I made a graphic of all possible Ravens extensions. And there are more guys that aren't on this graphic, but I just like the big ones essentially. So we're going to pull it up and you can see it's a little blurry by accident, but I don't know why it's blurry. Anyway, Lamar Jackson, no extension right now, but you see Derrick Henry, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Travis Jones, and Kyle Hamilton all checked off. You know, since the offseason, they have signed 5 of their guys to new extensions. And if you would ask me before the season, how many of the guys that were checked off would I have thought actually got extensions? I would have probably told you 3 because I would have been one of the tight ends between Andrews and Likely. Again, I would have probably leaned Likely there, but Andrews got that deal. Hamilton, they were never letting walk out the door. Henry felt all inevitable they were going to. But again, like without knowing the context of the Bateman and the Jones situations, those are 2 premium positions that, you know, even if those guys aren't like top of the value list in terms of how good they are, they're still like really solid players, and really solid players. A lot of teams need really solid players and will be willing to overpay a little bit. And so I thought, are they going to price themselves out? But knowing what we know about the situations, and as we get more information on that, you know, this is really good. So obviously the one that didn't get an extension is Odafe Oweh, who is now in Los Angeles, but still a couple question marks, right? Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Tyler Linderbaum, and Marlon Humphrey. You know, there are others as well that they could potentially look to. I mean, Chidobe Awuzie, Jordan Stout, that they have other guys that they can potentially extend. But, you know, at the end of the day, the fact that they were able to get 5 extensions done from the point of the offseason to now, I was expecting Lamar to be in the, I was expecting less extensions, but I was expecting Lamar to get done, which kind of is like an even trade-off. And like, it's less actual deals done, but Lamar kind of opens things up for you, which is really interesting. And I see people talking about it where, you know, Zachary saying only one we need to extend is Zay, the rest of them can walk. I see Captain Cookie, let Marlon walk, you know. Yeah, I see Zachary. We got to bring back Cheeto. He's been amazing. I love Chidobe Awuzie. I think, you know, him, Jordan Stout, 2 guys the Ravens should absolutely be prioritizing. But I like that the Ravens are being aggressive in their pursuit of their guys. And again, it's not going to necessarily, hopefully at least, impact how the Ravens do things during free agency, because we certainly know they need to invest. Bringing in a veteran guard should be the number one priority. Fixing up that offensive line should be the number one priority. Also adding to their pass rush. And again, I think with signing Travis Jones, you're banking on him continuing to improve his play over the next 3 seasons. So hopefully you're adding to your pass rush by re-signing Travis Jones. Let me tell you something, though. I don't want that to be the only move they make on the pass rush. They need to bring in the guy. You know, I know a lot of people are talking about Micah Parsons or Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby. And while, you know, I think that'd be great, I would love for them to make that move. I'm not sure how realistic that is at this point. But look, they can't go into this season with, or into next season with, the same offensive line they had and the same defensive line that they had. Bringing back Travis Jones, I like that move, especially at that number. But, you know, you are probably going to be replacing at minimum 40% of your offensive line, if not 60% of your offensive line. And alongside that, you still have other guys you have to re-sign, other moves. And actually, I'm going to see here if Brian McFarland, you know, the Ravens salary cap expert, he's a friend of the show. We've had him on, and he talked about it a little bit, where he said that it was interesting with the whole situation where Bateman didn't show up to training camp on time. He says he doesn't remember that happening with Travis Jones. So, I don't know. Maybe there will be more details, and we'll talk about that a little more tomorrow if it is. But the Ravens still have other avenues to free up salary cap space, both with Roquan Smith if they want to move on from him, which I don't anticipate them doing, but there is that option. Marlon Humphrey is another guy you can move on from and save a decent amount of money. So you have a lot. Plus, like with the Lamar deal, you are going to have spending money this offseason. And if you want to backload a lot of those deals and get like multiple key guys in, maybe make a trade for a guy, because here's the other reality of the situation with them signing Travis Jones to a deal that essentially to me is below market value, despite him having just 5 sacks in his career so far. That opens the door for them to potentially re-sign Linderbaum and not have it hurt as much as it would have in terms of the room that they would actually have to then go out there and sign other guys. Or maybe they can franchise tag a Likely or Linderbaum and actually have that money work, as opposed to, because I think when it's all said and done, the Ravens will have a pretty good chunk of spending space. So if they want to franchise tag a Likely or a Linderbaum, I think with the move for Bateman and the move for Jones happening the way that they have, you're going to have the opportunity to do that. And even if you do want to move on from a Marlon, which will free up, I always know it's more than $10 million. Marlon Humphrey contract. So if they were to release Marlon at the end of this season, because they do have an out for 2026, he would have $18 million in debt. Oh, I thought it was more money than this. Oh, well. He would have $18 million. Oh, because it was because of the restructure, I'm pretty sure is why this happened, because they ended up freeing up some money short term. But so he has an $18 million, or I guess $19 million dead cap hit, about $26 million in the cap hit. So you'd save around $7 to $8 million. That number did go down, I believe, after the Ravens restructured his contract. So I think it was a little more. Roquan's deal is over $10 million, I'm pretty sure. But so you'd save anywhere from $7 to $8 million with Marlon Humphrey if you were to move on from him. And that's a decision that, the Ravens are going to have to make. Roquan, if you were to get rid of him, which they shouldn't, you'd save $20 million. Or no, that's 2027. 2026. Wow, I thought these numbers were bigger than this. All right, I guess not. You'd save about $8 million, which they shouldn't move on from Roquan, in my opinion. Marlon, I think that you can make an argument for. Roquan, I think, is too important to the middle of that defense. So you have avenues. You certainly have avenues to go out there and do it. And I think with deals like this for Jones and, of course, for Bateman, and you're getting these guys below market value at premium positions, when we're seeing that cap go up every single season too. That's the other thing. The cap is going to go up. We know these TV deals. We know the landscape of the NFL right now. Like, assuming the cap goes up, you are going to have opportunities to really spend and improve your team. Obviously, look, we still have 4 games to go this season, but you have a really big opportunity if you're Baltimore to really shore up weaknesses that probably shouldn't have been weaknesses this year, but they were. And with development and growth and additions, you got to make the free agent signings, you got to make the trades. And I think that with that does come, you not going out there, and if you're Baltimore prioritizing all these comp picks, I think you're in a decently good spot there. So again, like, you have so many different opportunities if you're Baltimore, and I just really, really hope that they can get it done. I see Cam asking, is Kave Noy free agent? Let me pull up Baltimore's free agent list real quick. So Baltimore's free agent list: Draymond Jones, Alohi Gilman, DeAndre Hopkins, Kave Noy is a free agent. Linderbaum, Ardarius Washington, Ricard, Tylen Wallace, Joseph Noteboom, Ajabo, John Jenkins, Chidobe Awuzie, Nick Moore, Jake Hummel, Ben Cleveland, Daniel Faalele, Charlie Kohler, Jordan Stout, Isaiah Likely. Then you have Keaton Mitchell as a restricted free agent, and Dayton Wade and Corey Bullock as exclusive rights free agents. So they have Van Noy's market value at around $5.1 million right now. They have Linderbaum's at about 17.5. Draymond Jones having about 7.5. Gilman about 4.5. So, I guess that these guys, not everyone's going to come back, but I think that they are going to probably re-sign a couple of them to, like, I don't want to say team-friendly deals, but, I guess to deals that, like, we would have seen in the past that, Baltimore doesn't have the ability to make at times with Lamar Jackson on his deal and all these other huge contracts. Plus, obviously, we still don't know a lot about the Nnamdi Madubuike situation. So, there's a lot there, but right now with Travis Jones being in Baltimore long-term, I think you're banking on that development, which I think he will get, but who's going to play next to him, I think, is the most important question. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the Ravens outlook. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll talk about it in the comments as well. If you're in audio form, you can message me your questions, but for the live, put them in the chat. We'll talk about them, as many as I can get to. Stay tuned. We got plenty coming your way on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by CarGurus. Car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. With CarGurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars you want, because when it comes to the big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And CarGurus makes the whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else, so you can shop the way you want. Use CarGurus deal ratings to compare cars quickly without having to guess whether the price is fair. You'll love being able to filter by everything: mileage, trim, features, so you're only seeing the cars that actually fit what you need. And their price drop alerts are a lifesaver. You get notified the second a car you're watching becomes a better deal. CarGurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. Shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your next car today at CarGurus.com. That's CarGurus.com. CarGurus.com. And the show is brought to you by Zocdoc. Guys, it's 2025, almost 2026, and those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and Zocdoc makes that easier than ever, because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. Now, using Zocdoc makes scheduling easier. Search for in-network doctors and book right in the app. Real appointment times are listed, including same-day visits. No more back-and-forth phone calls or waiting weeks to be seen. It's super helpful for routine checkups and those little issues you've been meaning to get checked out. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments to get the care you need. Go to Zocdoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Zocdoc.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, continuing on here, Locked On Ravens Instant Reaction Edition. Travis Jones getting the money. 3 years, $40.5 million. Fair deal for both sides. It definitely is more team-friendly, though. But hey, $40.5 million, you can't complain about that. So appreciate everybody for being here. Again, we have 5 days a week plus more daily Ravens coverage, and it's been awesome growing this community, all the communities we have: video form, audio form, social media, subtext, now the Everydayer Club. So thanks so much for being here. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about this Ravens outlook and kind of where they are right now. A lot better of a spot than I thought they would be in terms of their own free agents at this time. I didn't expect I maybe expected one. And so I thought that one was Andrews, but I had said, all right, try to get another one done. And that they did. So to me, I think that now, the season's not over. Technically, I mean, I know it kind of feels that way. You have 4 games of your Baltimore, as John Harbaugh said, to control your own destiny. Lamar Jackson back at practice on Thursday. So again, with it being a injury, nothing for him, it was a rest day for Lamar Jackson. They listed it on the injury report. That is what it is. So Lamar Jackson and Chidobe Awuzie, according to Jess Rebeck, they both returned to practice for the Ravens. Apparently the only guy that is not out there that Jeff didn't see was Corey Bullock. So Ravens in a pretty good spot injury-wise. They're expected to get Tavius Robinson back this week, according to Tavius Robinson. And hopefully our Darius will be able to come back as well. So at the end of the day, I think that at this point, the Ravens will have to go with the bare minimum 3-1 to be able to have a shot here, because I'll stay consistent with it. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs if they don't win the division. But even if they do make the playoffs, I just don't think they're going to go very far with this offensive line and, some of the teams that they'll be playing. It's just been a really rough year for Baltimore, and one of the more disappointing years, I think, in team history, if we're being honest, based off of expectations. So yeah, it's been tough. this outlook for this season, I'm not very bullish on it, if I'm being honest with you. In the offseason, I think they have a real opportunity here. Will that be with a new head coach? Will that be with new coordinators? Will that be, I don't know the answer to those questions. We've had that conversation a ton here on the show, but they still have talent on their roster. The problem is I think it's so focused on certain positions at times where like the secondary, I love the talent they have in the secondary. Kyle Hamilton, awesome. Nate Wiggins, awesome. Marlins had a great Ravens career. Like, you invest another first in Malachi, but at some point it's just like you have to invest in other positions that you have cheaped out on in certain seasons. And Derrick DeCosta, I mean, yeah, it's been tough for him at that guard spot. And I think he knows it. I think he understands it. And hopefully he'll be able to right his wrongs this offseason. I see Cam asking a question. Kevin, do you seriously see this team with the O-line and D-line getting any further than a divisional round loss? Is that worth it? Wouldn't we rather have a top 15 pick and a new head coach? Well, the answer to your first question is no. I don't see them getting any further than the divisional round this season. And if you've been listening to me for a while, and Cam, I know you've been here for a while, that's not acceptable to me. It's not. I've preached for years and years and years on this show about how I value consistency and not getting complacent. And while I'm not asking for a Super Bowl championship every year, I mean, I kind of am, but no, realistically, they're not going to win the Super Bowl every single season, right? Even the Dynasty Patriots didn't do that, although it seemed like it, miss. Same with the Chiefs. These AFC dynasties need to stop. We need more parity, which I think is what we're going to get this season, and we are getting it, which is honestly great. But that's what makes this season most frustrating, right? Is that the AFC this year is so wide open. It's so wide. And I talked about this with Hugh and Sam on the squad show yesterday. I'm just like, look at all these teams that the Ravens have had trouble with. The Chiefs, they're probably not going to make the playoffs this year unless they have a miracle. The Bills, they're looking weaker than usual with their defense. And, they'll probably get there to the postseason. But, they don't look like that vaunted Bills teams. The top teams in the AFC right now are teams that are really good. Like the Patriots and the Broncos are really, really good. But there are questions about, playoffs, young quarterback, how's that going to work? So that's the most frustrating part to me. So, yes, I mean, coming into the season, I said it was Super Bowl or bust. I said that at the absolute minimum, that it'd be at least an AFC championship game. And even then, you're kind of wondering. But, even if you make the divisional round this season, you'd be staying the same, or if it's anything less than that, going backwards 2 years in a row from your AFC championship. That's not the way that it should be. And, Harbaugh's had a great Ravens career. He's been incredible for the franchise, but you have to be realistic about his recent stuff here, where 3 playoff wins in 10 years isn't going to cut it for anybody. And I've seen coaches fired for less. So, it's a difficult situation because I think everybody understands how much the Ravens in that organization love John Harbaugh, but we know that sometimes they can also be over loyal. And that, I think, might be what's happening here. So if they miss the playoffs, he has to be gone. If they lose in the wild card round, I think, again, he has to be gone. Like, how many times are you going to go back to that well, in my opinion? And so to the other part of the question about, would they rather have a top 15 pick or a new head coach? I mean, yeah, I would rather have that, but because that's my thing. Like, I either be bad or be good. Like, don't be in the middle. And the Ravens have proven they can draft in that range anyway, but like, get the top picks or don't. Like, this like consistency limbo that they seem to be in right now, it's been frustrating. So I just think they need to get on it with the new chapter if the season does end like the way I think a lot of people think it is going to. Another question from Cam: do you think if the Ravens miss the playoffs, they bring back Zach or Harbaugh? No, well, I guess I answered your question before I got to it. No, I don't. But I just, if it's another coordinator change and they keep Harbaugh, I'd be pretty livid at that, because I've been pretty consistent in saying, like, again, not only how many times you're going to go back to that well, but how many coordinators do you need to cycle through? If anything, it might be Monken, which, again, I also don't think is the right. Honestly, what could happen is they could fire Harbaugh, promote Monken. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's what they should do, but I think it is a possibility that's out there. But yeah, if they miss the playoffs, I don't think there is any justifiable reason to bring back John Harbaugh outside of they're just loyal to him. Like, that feels like it is what it is. Let's see. Brandon, are we going to restructure King Mitchell's contract? Well, Keaton's a restricted free agent, so essentially what they can do is they can't sign him to an extension, but he'll have that tag. So like with the Travis Jones situation, if he was actually going to hit restricted free agency this year, you're able to sign him to a tender. So the Ravens will probably give him a tender, and then a team can match that and say, hey, we're going to sign you to this tender. And then the Ravens have the opportunity to match that tender. They can either accept it or decline it. So I'd expect Keaton to be back. I have no worries about Keaton coming back, but signing Keaton to an extension, I think would be a good move just to have him under contract. And I think that, with Derrick Henry not getting any younger, still has football ahead of him, but I'd be curious to see if they view Keaton as kind of the replacement there. I see. Do you want to get rid of Lamar Jackson, Ravens fans? I personally don't. I know that the fan base is a little split on that right now, but I personally think Lamar Jackson should be the quarterback of this team until he retires. But, there are just a lot of other issues right now with this Ravens team. And if it's not Lamar, who is it going to be right now? Like, you can go with that reset period, but I mean, their roster's built to win now. Lamar is built to win now, and Lamar is one of the best we've ever seen at the position. So for me, Lamar is this franchise quarterback, at least in my eyes, until he retires. So Travis Jones gets that extension, maybe more down the pipeline. We're going to see, but I love this move for the Ravens. We'll talk about it more tomorrow as well on our Friday show. That's all I have for you here today on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. But again, we'll have the show tomorrow. We'll talk about Travis Jones, we'll talk about this team and where they need to go and what they need to do to try and salvage this season, if it is even salvageable. So be sure to like and subscribe button on the way out. Video form, audio form, same show, however you want to watch or listen. Also, be sure to turn notifications on. See you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.